25% of businesses successfully transition to new ownership.
Their job as a buyer is to do two things. It's to buy your company for as little as possible and to put as much risk on the seller. So he sold for $10 million and felt really good about himself until 1 year and 1 day later when the private equity group flipped it for $150 million. According to EPI, 50% of business owners go out not on their terms, tied to what they call the 5 dismal Ds, death, disability, divorce, disagreements, distress. And we ended up closing that deal at $14 million with 85% cash at close versus the 5 that they would have got. It's life-changing money. Private equity firms and other businesses, when they go, what do we want to buy? We want to buy founder-owned companies because they have no idea what to expect and they're going to get beat up.
So welcome to Beyond the Bottom Line. I'm your host, Joey Lalonde, and this show is about pulling back the curtain on how the ultra wealthy actually protect and grow their money without the gatekeeping and the complexity. Now, we talk a lot about tax strategies, investment structures, and wealth protection if you've been catching up on the previous episodes. But there's one wealth event that we haven't really covered deeply, and it's probably the biggest one you'll ever experience if you're a business owner, and that's selling your business. And we couldn't be more lucky today than have Scott Bushkie is the managing partner and founder of Cornerstone Business Services, a boutique investment bank serving the lower middle market in the US. He's completed over 400 transactions and was just inducted into the IBBA Hall of Fame in 2025, the youngest person to ever receive that honor. He's also the author of Finish Strong, Sell Your Business on Your Own Terms. His firm's 2025 national study revealed some uncomfortable truths about why business sales fail, and he's developed a proprietary process called POMO, the power of multiple offers, that changes the game entirely for business owners. So if you ever thought about selling your business or receive an unsolicited offer or just want to understand how to protect your wealth you've built over decades, well, this conversation might change how you think about your exit. With that said, welcome to the show, Scott.
Thank you, Joey. Great to be here.
Again, Scott, on this show, we talk a lot about how business owners can protect and grow their wealth through tax strategies, investment structures, estate planning. But for most owners, their business is their wealth, right? It's 70, 80, sometimes 90% of their entire net worth. And
right.
Your 2025 national study, I was going through it before the call, found that only 25% of businesses successfully transition to new ownership. That means that 75% of owners either never sell or sell it in a way that doesn't meet their expectation. So after 25 years of doing this, 400 plus deals, why is that number so low? And what's going wrong right now with this?
Yeah, I think it comes down to two main things. One is they don't start planning soon enough. Some of the studies showed that 32% have no idea who to trust or even where to start. So they just don't do anything. Another 65% said they are deeply tied emotionally to their business. Their identity is deeply tied. So it's like, who am I? If I sell Cornerstone the next day, who am I? And they don't know, and they just can't let that go, or they don't know what they're going to do next. So even though I'm burnt out or tired, I've been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years, I don't let go. So they don't start soon enough. A lot of their trusted advisors don't know how to start the conversation because it's just the blind leading the blind a little bit. And so if they don't start the conversation, the owner doesn't know where to start. And they go, I'll figure it out someday. And the second reason is that they don't build a team of specialists around them. Most times they try to do it themselves. And you can imagine, if you're going to have to do something the first time you've ever done it, and you probably only do it once in your life. And oh, by the way, it's your largest single asset that you own. It's, like you said, it's probably 70, 90% of your net worth. You're emotionally tied to this thing. Most of my clients talk about giving up one of their children for adoption when they talk about selling their company. It is your identity. All of these things going together, and you wonder why it doesn't work out. And the analogy that I like to use, Joey, is think of you're the best tennis player in the world. So from when you started in grade school, middle school, high school, college, pros, Olympics, you've never lost a tennis match. You are the best tennis player in the world, and you've got that confidence because you worked hard. You just wasn't just given you worked hard. You train all the time. You put in the work, but now you've got that confidence. And then you go into, I bring you out to my country club, and you start chatting with the club pro, and you're like, well, how hard can golf be? I'm hitting serves at 100 miles an hour back at people, and the ball just sits there, doesn't even move, and I get a big club to whack this thing. I'm like, God, I'm sure I could be really good, great golfer. And the club pro's like, well, it's not that easy. How hard can it be? And the club pro's like, hey, Joey, why don't we go out and play around? Yeah, sure. Now you're an amazing athlete. Everybody's told you you're the best tennis player in the world. You don't lose anything. You work hard, but you've never in your life played golf. Not once, not miniature golf, not anything. And you're going to go out in this course, and this person's probably a terrible tennis player, but that club pro has played that course hundreds, if not thousands of times. They know where every water hazard is. They know how all the greens lie. They know where the bunkers are. Who's going to win that match? Every single time the club pro is going to clean your clock. And yet that's what it is for business owners, is they are very good at what they do. They have this grit and this persistence and this problem solving ability. Like, I'll pivot here, I'll pivot there, I'll figure out my way. You can't do that when it comes to selling your business. You get one chance. And, just to give you an idea on that analogy. So I just ran a panel of 4 different private equity groups. And we asked the question, I said, how many deals do you look at a year to how many you actually buy? And the average was, of the 4 groups, they look at somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000 deals a year, in 1 year, and they buy 5 to 10. And this business owner gets one chance in their life, and it's the largest transaction of their life. And so you can see that doing it themselves, or using their attorney who, again, is their friend, and they've helped them set up their LLC. They've done some collections for them. They've helped them with some problems with customers or with employees. But he or she is not an M&A expert. And all of a sudden now we've seen it where the client builds up a company for 30 years. They do a great job. We get multiple offers, more than what they thought we were going to get. They pick the deal. Now they bring it to their attorney. That's their friend and not an M&A attorney. And the deal blows up. And all of that work for nothing. So it's about starting earlier and really preparing earlier and then building a team of specialists around you. If you can do those 2 things, you got a much better chance of not only selling your business, but maximizing that value and be able to choose at the end of the day, which we'll talk more about with that POMO, of who's going to take on your company, who's the best fit for you in your business.
That's really interesting. Again, because I was talking to you a bit before recording this, that again, I'm a business owner. I think every business owner should aspire at one day exit, but not only exit, but exit on their terms, right? You've worked so hard to build what you've built today. You need to be rewarded for it, right? Create generational wealth with your business. And it's funny everything you said is very connected and related to we had a lot of financial advisors come on the show. And when it comes to like business owners saving taxes, it's the same thread. It's like they don't have a good team. They don't have specialists that can help them in every area. A business owner might rely on their CPA for everything regarding taxes, but their CPA is just reactively helping them, right? It's filing the taxes. They need a financial planner. Exactly. But they put all the trust on that CPA. Same thing when it comes to selling the business. Like I have so many questions, like when do I start? Right? When is, and I want to get super tactical on this show and ask you a bunch of my own question as a business owner of what I would have. But first I want to start with, you said like, all right, 25% do it properly, 75% fail. You've ran through a lot of successful transactions. What do you think is the common thread of that 75% failure rate? Like if you have to pinpoint one, is it expectation? Is it preparation? Is it something else?
Yeah, I would say if you looked at the number one reason, and I've been a part of other studies that I've done, and the number one reason businesses don't sell is typically sellers' expectations. Again, this is my baby. Everybody's kid's the best looking, the smartest kid, and the best athlete in school, right? And then you price your business accordingly. And buyers don't care what you want or what you need or what you think. It's, what are they willing to pay when you look at the cash flow of the company? Because that's what they're buying is the future, typically the future cash flow. If it's recurring revenue, it's the revenue. But for 98% of the businesses out there, it's what is that future cash flow that buyer is buying. And so that's, I would say that's probably number one. And then number two would be that preparation piece that we talked about earlier, is that they just, it's really interesting. Probably one of the most unique and scariest questions we asked was in the study. And again, these are 750 companies all over the country, accurate to the 2020 US Census. So they only got like a 3.5% differential or fudge factor in it. Yeah. And it was businesses, about 25% were 5 to 10 million. So you had to be at least 5 million revenue to get into the program. So 5 to 10, 10 to 25, 25 to 50, 50 to 100, about 25% a piece. So these are not companies that just started yesterday doing 200,000 revenue. These are some doing 80, $90 million in revenue, and some doing 20, 30 and everything else. And we asked them, what's your mindset around when you're going to sell your company? The number one answer, which blew me away, was I plan to sell my business when I'm physically and or mentally unable to continue.
That's crazy.
Think about that. That's the mindset, because they just don't know how, when, why, or where, because no one's asked them that question. It's like death. What do you want for your funeral? Well, we'll figure that'll go, some other day we'll work on that. Right now I just want to work on what's here today. And you ask somebody, when are they going to sell their business? I bet you 9 times out of 10 they're going to say 5 years. And you ask them 2 years later, guess what their answer is? 5 years. Because they're close enough that them and their spouse kind of get excited, like, oh, we're almost at the end, or we can almost start to really enjoy life and do everything we've set on our bucket list. But yet it's just far enough away that I really don't have to change my habits of what I've done to really prepare this thing for sale. And so they just keep doing it. And what we found through our surveys and just being in the trenches for 27 years is that most business owners do not sell their business. The trigger is not a business issue. Like, Joey's built this business up and he's got a 10-year plan, and the 10-year he's going to sell. It's typically, and especially baby boomers, most of our clients are baby boomers, not all. We get a lot of Gen Xers as well, but a lot of them are boomers looking to retire and being one and done. Is that they just wake up one day and they're burnt out. They're tired. They don't have that energy anymore. It's like, you know what? It's just harder than it used to be. And my company's still doing good, but I'm just done. I'm tired. I'm burnt out. Maybe I'm a little sick, or my spouse is sick, or my best friend who's in better health than I was just died of a heart attack. And it's like, holy cow, maybe I should stop and smell the roses a little bit. And so I think those are some of the key areas that we focus in on of why it just doesn't work out as well as it should.
There's so many angles I can go with that. I was laughing because when you were saying this, I was trying to answer your question, right? Like for myself, and it was 5 years. I think it just makes sense, right? It's like, it's far enough though, so that you can reach that number that you have set for yourself. But at the same time, it's not like you don't have to take action today because you have 5 years.
100%. Yeah.
And to your thing about, do you know Alex Hormozi and Lila Hormozi, acquisition.com? I remember in one of the videos they were talking about when they sold, Jim launched their first company. I think they sold 66% for $43 million. And they were saying that at one point that trigger that wanted them to go out, it's because of that desperation. They were burnt out. But when you're burnt out and desperate with your business, nobody wants your business. Nobody wants to be burnt out. It means there's something wrong. Right. So you actually,
or you're going to sell it for half of what it's really worth.
Exactly. Exactly. And then they met someone that was like, yeah, well, look, if you fix this, you fix that, you fix this, then you can sell for 20x, 10x what you would do right now. So they did that. And at the end, they didn't want to sell their business because now it was a nice business. They weren't burnt out. Right. They had the whole team. So that's very interesting. And I'm just asking again for myself, because I was like, okay, that 5 years, what's the right timeline, that right gauge? Like, should it be a number that you're chasing after, or what should it be?
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of times people think of exit planning or preparing their company for sale as something that you're going to do a year before you sell or something like that. And really, to your point before, the story you just told is that I literally starting today, like, what can you do to de-risk your company? What can you do to drive more revenue to the company? What can you do to build out your management team? All those things are going to make your company more valuable at the end, are going to help give you more options today. If you can build out your management team, guess what? Now I can take time away. That's what I did in the last 3 years. Built out my management team. I took off July and August, July and December. Excuse me. I would have never been able to do that 3, 4, 5 years ago ever. And now my company's worth more because I can take time off. And then it's, how are we growing? How are we building things out? So it's exit plan is just good business strategy. And people don't see that, like, I'm going to do this at the end. It's like, I sold my last house that I sold. I had it and I lived in it for 10 years and it was a great house. But at the end, I did all this cool stuff to it to make it ready to sell. I put in a bar, a pool table, and built out a man cave. I'm like, man, why didn't I do this when I bought the thing? I would have had 10 years, to enjoy the house, and I did it at the end, and so it's just, I could have had a much more enjoyable experience at my house throughout the whole thing if I would have done it earlier. And I knew what to do. I just put it off and put it off and put it off until I had to do it to get it ready for sale.
Yeah, no, that's my takeaway from that. And again, I think that the 5 years is the typical answer, the knee-jerk answer. But at the end of the day, I remember like people ask me as well, like, okay, when do you like we celebrate our 5th year this year, so we're going on our 5th year right now. Like, all right, do we want to go another 50, another 5, or another 10? It's hard to say, but I think the right answer is that even if you don't want to sell, just build your business in a way to have the option, have the best
right.
options as
Put yourself
possible.
out, because if your company is growing, got a good management team, you don't have to sell. You can step away. You can sell it for more money. You can put in a manager. You can sell a part of the company
For sure.
to a private equity group or family office. There's so many different options you have. But if you've got a company that's all based on you and you're burnt out and it's been stagnant, or it's been going down, to your point, it's probably not saleable at that time. And that's what happens is that the number one, again, these are all answers from the study, findings from the study, but the number one answer, why would you not want to sell your company, was, man, things are going so good. I'm having so much fun. I'm making so much money. Why would I ever want to sell now? And that's ironically, that's the time that you do want to sell. Like, things are on an upward trend. You're excited about the future. You got good EBITDA growth. Buyers buy into that. They see the growth and go, hey, with your company, with your company, and you're more with your more capital or whatever you have that's more because you're bigger. Just think what this thing can do, versus what happens most of the time is going, why would I ever want to sell now? And then you crest the S curve.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, now I'm kind of bored, tired. It's not fun anymore. I'm burnt out. I don't put the energy in. Now I want to sell. Well, it's not this anymore. Now you're on a downward spiral, and then they still want this value. Like we talked about earlier, sellers' expectations. Well, when I wasn't burnt out, I was doing this. Why can't I sell for that? Because it's not down. Now you're down here. You're not up here anymore. And they just keep hoping that someone's going to pay them this big number, and until it spirals and they end up shutting the doors for pennies on the dollar. That's what happens so many times, because they don't know what it's really worth. They've never get what we call an RMA, or real market analysis. No one ever talks to them about when they're going to get out, how they're going to get out. There's no planning. They just wake up one day and they decide they want to get out and find out that it's probably too late. Most people hang on well too long versus selling too soon. Like, oh, I sold too soon. I left money on the table. That probably happens 1 out of 50 times versus the 99 times out of 100 that people hang on too long.
Yeah, for sure. Because you got to evaluate, like, it's an offer like anything else. It's like, okay, let's say you get offered $50 million, but your business makes $20 million EBITDA every year, or $10 million EBITDA every year, like a 5X on your EBITDA. You got to make the real decision for yourself. Like, do you think you can stay more than 5 years in this business and make that money and then keep growing it, or not? So my question was, in terms of preparation, what's the best preparation? Is it business strategy? Is that all what it is? It's like just making sure you can build your business in a way where you get that optionality in the future, or meets with someone in specific sectors to help you in certain areas.
Yeah, I think, it depends on what your skill set is and everything else. But the two biggest things that are drivers or deal killers typically in deals, again, you got to if you put your buyer hat on, going, where is the risk? Where are the single points of failure that if I'm a buyer and I'm buying your company, Joey, if A or B happened, the company would fall apart? What are those things? For most times it's the owner is the business. So did you build out a management team? If you've got a management team there, that opens up the world to so many more buyers, because now you've got a proven management team. You can take yourself out. Management team stays in. They get some incentives to go forward, to get some equity or whatever it might be, and life is good. The other is how well diverse is your customer base. If you're you got two customers or two businesses, one doing both doing 10 million in sales. One's doing $1.8 million EBITDA. The other one's doing $2 million EBITDA. Which one would you buy? Well, I'd buy the one that $2 million EBITDA because it's making more. But then if the 1.8, their top customer is 5%, and on the other one where it's $2 million the bottom line, but their top customer is 55%, now which one would you buy? Well, I'd buy A all day long, because if I lose 5%, I'm still in the game. If I lose 55%, I'm out of business. So those are, and again, and it's de-risking the company, it's process and systems, it's all the things. A lot of it is strategy, but I would say those are the biggest ones, because you could build up a $4 million EBITDA company, but if it's all based on Joey and Joey's knowledge and Joey's contacts and Joey's got the relationships, you can't sell it. You're going to have to stay on a big earnout. Then you go, well, why the heck would I sell and stick around and be an employee for 3 years? I'll just keep running the business the way what I'm doing now. So it makes it much, much tougher. And going back on your, hey, if I get $50 million today, should I stay, or keep the 10 million? And that's where we really go back to, why did Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, why did you do it in the beginning? Why did you start this company in the first place? Why? Yeah, and most Yes, they saw an opportunity and need, but it comes down to financial independence. They want to be able to live the lifestyle at some point that they can. And that's why with our process, with our Assurance 360 process that we've developed, some of the earliest steps are, have the conversation, have a discovery call with an investment bank like Cornerstone, just to understand what's the lay of land, what's going on in the marketplace, how long does it take, whatever it might be. Get that RMA done. What is that real market analysis? What's that real value? What's my net number? What's my lifestyle number? You should never think about selling your business till you know those three numbers. So the three numbers are, what's your valuation? What's that? We call it the RMA, the real market analysis, because you've got to be careful because, again, M&A, investment banking, it's high stakes, right? People have never done this before. People get taken all the time. So there's groups out there, national groups, small groups, big groups, that will just tell you whatever you want to hear from a valuation standpoint to get a $50,000 retainer. And they sell 5 to 10% of the companies that they take on. Talking to their employees, it's ridiculous, but that is a model that's out there. So too many brokers or too many investment banks will tell you whatever you want to hear. So you need someone that's in the trenches that are going to give you a real number. And that's what we like to say is that we're going to tell you not what you want to hear necessarily, Joey, but what you need to hear in order to make a well-informed decision. That's just one of our that's one of our core principles. And then so once you know that number, then you say, okay, it's $10 million, easy number. Who cares? What am I going to net out of this thing? If I got $9 million in debt, I got $1 million in fees, I get a big goose egg. Probably not the right time to sell my business, even though 10 million could sound like a lot. So yeah. So what am I? Now I got my real number. Now my net is my net number. What am I going to net out? So what's my worst case scenario? And then sitting down with these, there's so many brilliant people out there. Again, to your point, that are specialists in taxing. Go, yeah, your worst case scenario is 6, but I can get you 7.2. If we have the time, once they sign a letter of intent, once the deal is done, so many of these tax treatments come off the table. You've got to do it well before you sell your business or even in the process of selling your company. And then once you know what that net number is, what's your lifestyle number? What is, when you sit down with your financial advisor going, hey, what do I need to live my ideal lifestyle? And if that number is 6 and your net number is 7.2, hey, who cares? Now you can sell and you can live your ideal lifestyle. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's really worth. Because you have these people go, oh man, I could work for 5 more years and make that much money. You could. It also could drop dead tomorrow. Your business you could lose your biggest customer tomorrow. The industry could completely change. AI could take you out of business tomorrow. So again, that's where entrepreneurs always think it's always double, 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 when we all know very few companies go like this year after year after year after year. So it's that's why we try to help them go, yeah, before you even sign up with us, let's just make sure the numbers make sense. If they don't, that's okay. We'll show you what you could do to enhance the value, and then you can work on that with a coach. I recommend working with coaches. Going back to your earlier question, I recommend working with a coach. So for companies that are usually doing 1 to 10, 1 to 15 in revenue, we've seen a lot of great work by Cultivate. It's a nationwide group, Cultivate Advisors. And then above 10 million in sales, scaling up. There's about 300 coaches worldwide with scaling up, and they do an outstanding job. And there's others out there that are good as well. Those are the two that we've had some really good experiences with. But what they do is they really, not only do they probably point out some things that you didn't see because they can really dive in, but they're also going to hold you accountable. Because what I've found with business owners is we'll show them, okay, that the numbers don't make sense. Great. Here's the 2 things you can do to enhance the value. And only 2, we don't give them 40 different things, and they go, okay, I got it. I don't need anybody. And they'll do it for about a month or 2, and then they'll go back into what they've done for 30 years, 10, 20, 30, 50 years. And they'll come to us a year later and be the same or less even sometimes because they're burnt out a little bit. And you're going, oh my gosh, I just wasted a year of my life. I didn't increase the value at all. And I'm now a year older. And I just wasted a year of my life. So by bringing in a coach, you can usually help you get there faster and better. And they're usually a good investment that more than pay for themselves over the long haul.
Yeah, scaling up. That's the master of the Rockefeller's habit.
That's right. Yeah.
This book. Yeah. This book's a Bible. This book is a Bible. Yeah. I think we have to look at it every year because your business changed so much, and that's a great first step. It's cost $20, even if you don't have the money for the coaches. Right. Just get the book. That's going to help you out. So 3 numbers: real market value, your net number, and lifestyle number. Right?
That's correct.
The only one you kind of have to figure out yourself is the lifestyle number. The RMV and the net number, you don't really control it. Like someone's going to sell it. You control how you can
the
improve
RMA,
it.
we're going to tell you what it's worth. But at the end of the day, you got to figure out. That's why the financial advisors are so great, because as you know, the good ones, they can run all these what if scenarios. So you can plug in, I want to buy a house, I want to do this, I want to live off of $400,000 a year, whatever it is, and then they can back up to, okay, you need this much, and how much do you have, and then you can see what that wealth gap is, what EPI talks about, it's just clear. It's just such a clear path, because otherwise somebody wakes up one day and go, I want to sell. I have no idea what it's worth. I have no idea what my net number is going to be. I have no idea what I need to live. Please, God, let it work out. And it's a gut wrenching, and they have no idea. And I've seen people live with millions of dollars, very, very frugal, feeling guilty every time they spent any money, because they just never sat down and going, how much can I really spend each year and still be okay? And why live like that? Why not understand what kind of lifestyle you could live like? And that's where, again, it takes a team to help with a business owner get through the sale of their business. It's not, I can't do it myself, the financial advisor, the CPA, the tax folks. It's everybody coming together for the benefit of the client to really help put together the best strategy possible and the best sale possible.
Yeah, and you've written about unsolicited offers, right? And you have a white paper specifically on this. Yes. And for owners like who've received that flattering call, right? Walk us through what's actually happening on the other side. Like, what does the buyer know that the business owner doesn't? No. So this is, if you get anything of a business owner, if you get anything out of this, is do not accept an unsolicited offer before you talk to an investment banker. Because again, their job as a buyer is to do two things. It's to buy your company for as little as possible and to put as much risk on the seller. So if it doesn't work out as good as they think they will, the seller takes a hit even more on value versus the seller. That's it. Think about it. When you go buy a house, you're not going to go, Joey, you seem like a really nice guy. I'm going to pay an extra $50,000 or $150,000. It's like, how much can I negotiate for to get it for as little as possible? And just to give an example, and then I'll get into some specifics, but to give you an example that most people will understand, again, going back to the housing scenario, is think if your family, you and your family are looking for a house, and your realtor calls you up and says, hey, it's a Wednesday. I think I got the perfect house for you. It's in the school district you want. It's the square footage you want, the backyard that you wanted, everything that you were looking for. And you go, well, I'm a little busy today. I'm busy this week. Can I go Saturday or Sunday? Like, oh, let me call. And they call back, go, you know what? You can go Saturday, you can go Sunday, you can go next week, Saturday, Sunday. It's been on the market for 110 days. There's nobody looking at it. There's been no offers. For whatever reason, you can go Saturday, Sunday. Let's just say it's listed at $1 million for easy numbers. So it's $1 million house. What are you going to, what value, what offer are you going to put on the house if you're the only buyer on the table and no one else has been there and they've been on the market for 110 days? So now, same house, scenario number 2, same house, same square footage, same everything else. Get a call. Hey, I think we found the perfect house for you guys. It's everything you've been looking for, school district, blah, blah, blah. And they go, oh, great. I'm busy today. Can I go Saturday? Saturday. There's already 5 showings on Thursday. I got you the 6th, and all the offers are due on Friday at noon. You go there, you look at it. It's everything you're looking for. And you've been looking for 3 months. Now what value are you going to put on that house? Probably asking or even more than asking. You went from an $800,000 maybe offer to $1.1 million, or whatever it might be. And then the third scenario is, as you're walking out of that house, the 7th couple's walking in, and it's just that family that you can't stand. Like, he or she, they think they know it all, or their kid beat up your kid at school, or whatever it might be. And they're like, hey, Joey, get out of this house. That's my house. You can't afford this house. I'll outbid you. And now you're like, over my dead body, I'm buying this house. And now that's the synergy of the buyers going, well, I can't let my competitor buy it. Now I've got to buy it. And so you might put 3 different values on the exact same house. And that's what we do as investment bankers at Cornerstone, is that's what we're creating, is we're telling the right story, the best story possible, to the right group of buyers. We're putting no asking price in the company. We're running a process where we're controlling the flow of information. We're keeping it confidential. We're controlling timing. We're asking for all the offers at one time. And then we get to negotiate from there. So like last year, we averaged 8 offers per client. So now who has the leverage? If it's one buyer and one seller, the buyer has all the tricks. They're going to tell you, and what we hear a lot, and in fact, I just heard this the other day, is the buyer will tell you, even sometimes they'll even tell you a high number. They'll tell you a crazy multiple and go, holy cow, well, geez, if I can get that, that's more than I ever thought. Well, then they're like, well, just sign this LOI here.
and now they got exclusivity. Once they sign you sign the LOI as a seller, and you get exclusivity, the deal's kind of done. Your fate has been sealed because now they have control. You can't bring any other buyers to the table. The deal's already cut, so you really don't need to bring an investment bank in or anybody else. The best thing you're going to do is get that value in there. But what's going to happen is now they're going to drag you out. And they're going to I'll close quick in 45, 60 days, Joey. 9 months later, you're still talking about it. And you're getting tired and you're wearing down. And guess what you're not spending time on? Your business. So now they go, yeah, Joe, I told you I'd buy it at 5 multiple, but it used to be 2 million. Well, now it's $1.5 million in your TTM, your trailing 12 months. So we can close next week, but you got to take that $2.5 million haircut, Joey. You want to do that? Oh my gosh, it's been 9 months. I've dragged through the mud. You're burnt out. You're tired. And you take a big haircut at the end of the day, or they walk away and you plead for them to come back and then they lower the price. And it's sad, but that's what happens a lot of times and again, not everybody, but that is a playbook that gets played, is that they'll tell you what you want to hear. And they just keep chiseling away at the value with QOVs and other due diligence items and everything else until they get to the number that they knew they were going to pay to begin with, which is much less than what they offered and probably much less than what the true fair market value is. Because just to give you an idea, we just did a deal about a month ago, and it was a smaller deal. It was about but a great business out west someplace. And the business owner, the financial advisor actually called us. I think they saw me speak somewhere and said, "Hey, Scott, we'd like you to talk with our client. They're talking to a buyer," which most business owners are talking to buyers right now. It's amazing how much money is out there chasing deals because, again, they get a better deal. And this will prove the point. So they said, they got an interested buyer. They don't know what it's worth. They've never had a valuation done or an RMA. And they just want to make sure they're not leaving any money on the table. I said, well, where are you at? Well, they started at 5 million and then negotiate up to 10 million, but it's all earn out from 5 to 10 million. If we'd have to be really, really good and grow crazy for us to get the full 10 million. So they said, we want you to do an RMA. So we did the RMA, and as they presented, they're talking the 10 million. The buyer said, "Hey, look, just so you know, this is as high as we can go. We shouldn't have even gone this high. We really like you. But this is our last and final offer. If you don't like the 10 million with the 5 million at close and 5 million earn out, we're not the right fit, and good luck." So she signed an agreement with us and she sent them an email going, "Hey guys, I like you guys. I want to keep you in the process, but just so you know, I think I'm going to work with Cornerstone to make sure I do this right. I only get one chance to do this." Within 5 minutes, her phone rings. "Hey, what's it going to take for you not to sign with Cornerstone? Or how much more money do you want not to sign with Cornerstone?" Because they knew if we ran a process, if we brought multiple buyers together, the price was going to go up. And they stayed in the process. They were not the buyer that the seller chose at the end of the day. And we ended up closing that deal at $14 million with 85% cash at close. So they got like $12 million cash at close versus the 5 that they would have got. And she would have saved a fee, but she would have never known, how much money she left on the table. And it's life-changing money. It's not Cornerstone's fee is $500,000. I'm going to get $500,000. It's like, no, we're typically getting, on average with our process, we're getting like 20% more than what the market is, what those valuations come in at. And because again, it all comes down to the competition. People pay more when there's competition, there's urgency and scarcity. And that's what we get to, we get to do.
That's very interesting. And that's the POMO process, right? The power of multiple offers. That's crazy. That's a 7 million more upfront. And then that's a 40% increase as well. What do you think that's due to?
Yeah, it just comes down to purely, again, going back to the house story. I mean, think of the emotional pressure, the competition that you have, the scarcity. This is the perfect house. We've been looking for 3 months. Yeah. If we don't get this one, who knows when we're ever going to find a house. The school starts next month and we got to be in the school district. It's that kind of pressure that gets on. And it's simply creating urgency and scarcity. And, another example of that is, look at the draft, the NFL draft.
Yeah.
It was just in Green Bay, and it was insane. For 50 years, it was this sleepy thing that had to happen as NFL teams, people got hurt, people retired. They had to get new kids in and play. Yeah. So they just did a draft, and it was in New York, the largest city, United States, for 50 years. And at its biggest, it had, I think it was at the Radio City Hall, 6,000 people, So 6,000 people there, couple camera crews, and then someone decided, hey, what if we take this thing on the road? Instead of having it the same place, same time, every time, what if we took it on the road and we created POMO where all these teams and all these cities bid on having it there? And if they bid on it, they were going to bring all this money to this amazing event. And this event that's small and sleepy is going to become awesome.
Yeah.
Well, just to give you an idea, it's been going on now for about 10 years. Green Bay's population is 107,000 people. New York's is about 8.5 million. Yeah. New York had 6,000 people. Green Bay had 600,000 people.
That's crazy, yeah?
It's now the second largest event that the NFL puts on besides the Super Bowl. It makes the second most money to the Super Bowl. And it was just somebody going, let's let teams and cities bid on this, having it here. And we're taking it all around the country. And not only do they get all the sponsors and all the excitement and all the investment into the infrastructure, but now me as a fan, I'm in Wisconsin, in Green Bay, going, it's never coming back to Green Bay in my lifetime. If I don't go now, I'm never going to see this thing. Versus, well, it'll be here next year. Well, though it's kind of crappy weather, I'm going to go next year. No, it's here once in my lifetime. So it created that urgency for the fans, and that's what brought 600,000 people through the gates in 3 days. So that's really what we create, is this urgency, this scarcity, this competition within all the buyers out there. When you don't put an asking price on that, and you got the best story possible, what the future is and how great this company can be, and you're talking with all the right buyers that have all the synergies where 1 + 1 = 3 or 4, not just 2, that is the only way a business owner is ever going to know what their true value of the company is. And on top of that, they get to choose who the best fit is, because it might not, it's a lot of times it's not always the highest value. It might be the second highest value, but they're going to protect my employees, or they have a better culture fit to mine than this other buyer, or I get to leave in 3 months versus I have to stay for 3 years, or vice versa. Yeah. There's so many variables that go into a deal, and that's where the owners get to truly, they get to finish strong. Like the book I wrote, they get to finish strong and choose who is that best fit for the next generation of the business, the legacy, the employees, and in the community.
Yeah. So basically, right, be careful about if you just have one offer, you're doing it wrong. Right. Make sure that you have more eyes to look into it and see it's a shark industry.
100%. Yeah. If you're going to do one offer, it's flattering. It's exciting. Like if I called you yesterday, go, hey, I really like your company, man, you build up a great company. I would love to buy your company. It's flattering. Somebody's validated the 5 years of work that you offered.
It's your identity,
that,
right? Like as a business owner, it's your identity, their business. So
it is. And you hear all the right things, and that's what it is. They know all the right things to say to pump up your ego. And and we all have egos. It's good. You have to have an ego. It's not negative. It's like, no, I built this thing and someone's validating my baby and telling me it's a good looking baby, and boy, your kid's a good athlete, and you feel proud.
For sure.
But then you just don't know what the true value is. And they are, again, why would they? Why would they pay more than they have to if they're the only buyer at the table?
Of course. No, it makes total sense.
And that's what we bring to the table. And that's really, with all the money out there, record amount of money, record amount of buyers, that is the number one mistake business owners are making now. In fact, I was just at an national EO conference speaking to the entrepreneur organization, and these are well-educated business owners, more than most. And one of the sellers raised a hand saying, if you got an unsolicited offer today, how many of you would sell? And everybody kind of looked around. All of a sudden, hands started going up. Like, yeah, I would. I bet you it's like 50 to 60% of the room raised their hand.
That's crazy.
And that's right on with our study, that showed that 55% said if they got an unsolicited offer that they assumed was reasonable. Again, 60+% have never had a valuation done, but if they assumed it was reasonable, they wouldn't check with anyone. They would just do the deal. 55% in our national study. So that's why that's why private equity groups keep doing it, because it works.
Yeah. Because your business, you're never going to get the price that you want. Like, if you're ready to sell right now, it's like you're looking for a way out. So you're admitting that your business is not as valuable as it could be. So that's crazy.
Yeah, you
that's
just don't know. You have no idea. And that's the game. And that's just private equity. It's family office. It's corporate. Yeah. I mean, if we work for a buy-side client, we do the exact same thing. We're trying to get sellers to raise their hand that aren't on the marketplace, because we know we'll get a better deal than if we were competing against 5 or 10 other buyers on the table, around the table.
Well, that makes sense. And now the next logical question that I have is okay, well, when is the right time? Like, when's the right time to get started? Is it okay, now my plan's the famous 5 year, is it right now? Should I start right now? To start working with people like you? Or I guess the better question is, what is the average stage in business that most of your client come to you at?
Yeah, it varies quite a bit. What I would say is a good starting point today, and whether you're in business for 5 years or 35 years, is to get an RMA done, is to get that real market analysis, because that starts everything. Because you might find out that you're worth much more than you think, or you might find out that you're worth a lot less, but now you still have the energy and time to work on it. If you're 1 year away, there's only so much you could do in a year before you sell your business. If you're 5, 10, 20 years away, now, instead of trying to go over here, it's like, okay, here's the path and it's a straight line to get from A to Z. We can help you get there faster, whether that's 5 years or 30 years, we don't care. But that RMA is really taking the time to understand, what is that value? What am I going to net? And then again, sit down with your financial advisor going, yeah, I might be 15 years away from selling, but I think I'd like to live this kind of lifestyle. What is that number? What is the number? Because it might be 6, it might be 26. You have no idea. But once you start understanding those numbers, now you can start to get in your mind of, all right, I'm here today. Where do I got to go? And, because if you could get there 3 years sooner, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you get 3 years of your life back? And one story I like to tell when I'm speaking around the country is around the why wait. It's about my dad. And my dad, was the youngest of 5, born, I think, in 1946. And he worked all his life. His dad was not a very nice person. And so from like 10 years old through high school, through college, he worked himself all the way through. And then we ended up in a small town called Horicon, Wisconsin. And the only thing there is John Deere. And so he worked in the corporate office of John Deere for 28 years. And he came home from work one day on a Friday, and my mom was home, and there's just those two. And I was like, hey, how was work? Oh, it was great. Really? Yeah, I retired today. And he was only 60. And he's like, what? You're thinking about retiring? We haven't even talked about this. Yeah, no, I retired today. They gave me, there was an opportunity to take advantage of an early retirement. They gave me 30 years versus 20 on my pension. They gave me a year's worth of severance, and they're paying out my vacation. So I basically got my 2 years. I got all my money up front. I'm taking off now at 60. I'm done. I've been working since 10. Because he saw this opportunity. He didn't know it was there, saw it, took advantage of it. And thank God he did, because he went golfing with his buddies. He traveled, came to see us and the grandkids, and did all the things that were on his bucket list for 2 great years. Just had a lot of fun and relaxed. Like I said, went to Florida, all over the place, Arizona. And thank God he did, because at 62, when he should have retired, according to the plan, 10 days before my wedding, he had a massive stroke. And he got, playing the best round of golf of his life, got a massive stroke, driven to a hospital, flight for life down to Madison, Wisconsin, and was told that, he could die. He lived through that, took another 6 months or a year to learn how to walk again. His mind and body was never the same. Lived for 5 more years and then died of cancer. And he would have worked from 10 to 62 to have a stroke and die of cancer and lived, a miserable last 3 to 4 years. Versus at least he had those 2 years to truly enjoy life, and anything he wanted to do, he could do. And I just look at people going, why wouldn't you want to know today what your value is? Why wouldn't you want to get an idea, whether it's higher or lower than you think? At least you know the number, and you can start planning accordingly. And again, we're going to give you the top 1, 2, 3 things you could do to enhance the value the most. So then you could do it yourself, or like I said, get a coach. And now you're getting there quicker. Because if you can get 5 years of your life back where you can sell and live your ideal lifestyle for 5 years, again, why wouldn't you? People get too stuck in the rut of, I got to just keep doing this to my retirement age, or I have no idea when I'm going to get out, and I want to make more money. And they forget about why they're doing it in the first place. And all of a sudden now they drop dead at their chair going, man, got a lot of money, had a nice business. What was it? How much impact did he or she have? How many memories did they make with their family and friends? And what else did they want to do in life that they never checked off the box? But they sure ran a nice business, and so it's just trying to get them to really look at their life at a holistic picture. And we have a book in the workbook, like you talked about, where one of the exercises in the workbook is writing down, what is my bucket list? Because people don't know what they're going to. Most times they just know they don't want to be where they're at today. They're running away from something. So where are you going to? And then also do almost write, like, we have it in our exercise of what do you want to be remembered for? Or almost like writing your eulogy, like at the end of the day, when you're gone, what do you want people to say about you? And then are you doing those things that you want people to say about you? Sometimes you are. Sometimes like, oh man, no, I haven't seen my grandkids in a year, 6 months. Last time was Christmas. Yeah, maybe I should go, if I want to be the best grandpa and really impact their lives, my kids' lives, maybe I should spend more time there, or whatever else it might be, your church or your community. And so I think that's, again, so going back to what should you do when? Is understand what your business is truly worth today, and then understand what you can do to enhance the value, and understand what your net and your lifestyle number is, And then you can make decisions for the next 30 years, but at least you're starting to, and I would say update that RMA every 2 to 3 years, because your company changes, the market changes. Your company could be exactly the same. Think about 9/11. Your company was one value on September 10th. It was worth something completely different on September 12th. Because all this uncertainty, I had 2 deals that were great deals that just fell apart like that. So it's, all the things you can't control is uncertainty, geopolitical, wars, interest rates, COVID. I mean, so you always think, oh, it's always going to be good. I'm always going to be healthy. The company's always going to be great. And unfortunately, bad things happen to good people. And according to EPI, 50% of business owners go out not on their terms, tied to what they call the 5 dismal Ds, death, disability, divorce, disagreements, distress, things that you don't want to, that's not how you want to leave the company or your legacy. But yet 50% go out that way because they just wait until something happens to them. And I've seen that way too many times, of people that wanted to sell and didn't sell until they literally had a heart attack or had cancer, and like, okay, now I'm on my deathbed. It's time. But it took them to their deathbed to decide that it was time to sell their business.
That's really powerful. That shook me, and that should shook a lot of people here as well. What's the first step to get the RMA? Like, where do you do that?
Yeah, you can just give us a call. If you could put our information there. Our corporate number is 920-436-9890, or our website is cornerstone-business.com. And you can reach out to us there. And again, everything we do is confidential. We'll have a discovery call with you. There's no obligation. There's no cost. Just to learn, just to help all these business owners learn, because as you started out pointing out early in our conversation, it's so much of it is a lack of education.
Yeah.
And they only do it once, so they don't need to know it their whole lives.
Yeah.
And but they do need to learn enough or get the right people around them. And that's what we're here to do, is help be a resource to business owners. And we work with a lot of financial advisors in helping their clients sell their businesses as well. That's a very large piece of our business as well, if we can help out any financial advisors.
Yeah, because my biggest fear looking at the selling process is the tax part, right? Because you never want, like, you work all your life for this. You finally get that $50 million offer, that 9-figure offer. You got to get 30% away, 20% away, 40% away. Like, how do you mitigate that, and who do you work with to do that?
Yeah, so within the deal, there's things between an asset deal and a stock deal. Like, if you're a C corp and you're doing an asset deal, you can pay as much as almost 50% in taxes. You get the double taxation, versus if it's a stock deal, you're just paying capital gains, so it's half the tax. Yeah. And there's asset allocation that you can look at. There's personal goodwill. There's a lot of different things we can do within the company, but really the unique things come about working with the tax folks, with a tax attorney, CPA, financial advisor, well in advance of the sale. Yeah. Gifted estates, getting some gifted estates tax, passing some of the things on to your next your kids if you want to do that. A lot of it can be done there. I mean, and there's so much that can be done to shield taxes or defer taxes and everything else. But to my point earlier, you can't wait until, I've got a signed letter of intent, or even worse, I've sold my business. Now what can I do? But now you can pay the taxes. And you're going to pay full boat. It's all the prep work before you go to market that is where the real magic happens. And again, we can help negotiate in the transaction, but the real tax experts are going to help you much more upfront, really set that up, whether it's putting the business in a trust or whatever else it might be. There's a lot of different things you can do.
But at the end of the day, like, the higher offer you can get, obviously this helps the net part of it. Correct. Right? So it's powerful to get multiple offers on it.
But if you can structure it where, you're paying, 25% versus 45%, or deferring all the tax, you can, again, it's all about what the net number is. So you can accept a lesser offer, which means you could probably get out earlier if you got the right tax specialists around you. And that's powerful, because you can shave off $1 million or $2 million in taxes, or $10 million, depending on the size of the company. And you can get out earlier and enjoy your life and make more memories and have a bigger impact. Why wouldn't you? But yet most people just go, I'll call my CPA after I sell my business to my competitor, and I got half of the value of my company. I paid full boat on taxes, and I net out this much, and now my lifestyle isn't what it used to be, or what it could have been, and they wonder why, or so that they just keep going, or whatever else it might be. So that's where, I love this podcast, because you really can help educate business owners on a topic that most people don't talk about. Or it's a generalist talking about it. And look, if you talk to my wife, she will tell you that I'm pretty much an idiot about everything else, but this little niche in the world, I've got 70,000 hours tied into helping business owners sell their businesses, understand value, and understand how to negotiate the deal and get multiple offers. But if you ask me how to fix the fridge, I'm clueless. I'll just go buy a new fridge.
That's not you.
On anything else, I just write checks. But I do know a lot about this little niche in life.
That's good. You seem to know a lot about football as well. So that might be your second.
Well, beating Green Bay, you have to know a little bit about football.
That's good. The riches in the niches, right? That's what we've been told.
That's right.
That's good. Your firm, I want to go on the Assurance 360 process. For a business owner who's never sold before, right? Which most business owners watching this should be there. What does a professional M&A process actually look like, right? M&A, merger and acquisition. What happens that doesn't happen when someone just takes a call from an interested buyer or from one offer?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So typically, I'll just say that the process, the national average is around 11 or 12 months to sell your company. Our average right now at Cornerstone is about 6 to 8 months. So know that it's a process. It's not an event. It's not like selling your house in a hot market that you're going to put it on the market and get 7 offers the next day and it's done. And so it's going to take time. So the first thing is getting that RMA done. That's about 3 weeks to do the RMA, and then whatever time it takes, for the tax and the financial advisor, you can kind of all do that somewhat at a parallel path. But let's assume that the numbers make sense. So that way, the first step is telling the right story. So again, if you're accepting an unsolicited bidder, if somebody's talking to you, you're going to piecemeal some things together and answer their questions and everything else. What we're doing is we're taking your legacy, your history, the current status of the company, your great management team, the products and services broken down by margin and divisions, and why do you win business and what are the growth opportunities, and putting the company in the best possible package that we can. So it's usually a deck of maybe 30 pages. Could be 20, could be 40, but it's really highlighting everything, and the client signs off on every single page so that exactly what we're saying. Everything's accurate, true. We're not saying that's not true. We're putting we go ugly early. We always say that if there's an issue with the company, you go ugly early. You want to tell the good and the bad up front. So that's being done. At the same time, we're also doing, our analysts and associates are doing research, of who are the best buyers. And depending on what your company is, what industry it is, what size it is, and what you want in a deal. Do you just care about the absolute highest value, or do you want to protect your employees, or what's important to you? Do you want to stick around for 3 months or 3 years? We'll look at private equity firms that have companies in your space already, the ones that don't and are looking to get into your space, family offices that act like private equity firms but hold on to the businesses longer. You got more patient capital. Or we'll look at corporations, private companies, more family owned, public companies, large, small, domestic, international. And we'll do all the research about who should buy your company, who can buy your company, who should buy it, why should they buy it, and what are the synergies? Why does 1 + 1 = 3? We'll put together that whole list. Sometimes it's 50, sometimes it's 350 people, groups on that list. And again, you'll go through it all, or some people go, I don't care who you tell it to, but just don't go to ABC Corp, because I don't care if they pay double. They've took my top salesperson. They're unethical. I would never want to sell to them. Great. We blacklist them. So now we know we got the right story. We got the right buyer list. And then we run a very proactive process. If it's more a Main Street deal, like sub $5 million revenue, well, then it's going to be more of a reactive kind of shotgun approaches. They're going to put it up on a biz buy sell listing exchange site, kind of like an MLS for homes, but for businesses. And they're going to wait for individuals to call. In our process, it's a rifle approach. We're not going after individuals. We're only going after the private equity firms, family offices, companies, and we're reaching out to them and emailing them and touching them multiple times to say, hey, we've got this generic opportunity. And again, there's a 1 page, what we call a teaser. So we keep everything confidential. That's the biggest thing, is that your employees, your competitors, your employees, competitors, and customers should never know that you're thinking about selling your company. So we do everything on a confidential basis. So they get a teaser. They go, yeah, that sounds interesting. I want to learn more. They'll sign an NDA or a confidentiality agreement. We'll get that back. Then we'll give them the SIM or the book that we talked about before. They get that. We answer some of their questions. And from when we go to market, so that first putting together the book and the research, that usually takes anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks typically. And then once we go to market, where some groups are out market 3, 6, 9 months, because of our team of 6 that are going to work on the deal, we're usually market for 30 to 60 days. So we're hitting the market hard. we're getting interested parties, we're answering their questions, and we're getting them excited about this opportunity that it's not going to be around for long. And if you want to get in it, you got to put your best foot forward. So we're getting all the offers typically within a 3 to 4 day period, ideally 1 day, but usually it bleeds into 2 or 3 days. And now we sit down, and it could be 3, it could be 5, could be 20 different offers. We've had anywhere from 2 or 3 to 28, I think, is the highest we've had. But our average is right around somewhere between 5 to 10 most years, going back to the last 5 years. And we'll sit down and say, okay, what are all the values? What are all the structures? I lay them out kind of apples to apples as best we can. And then the owner he or she gets to decide. They typically want to bring 3 to 5 through to the next round. So we're not bringing everybody through. So which ones do you like the best? Let's get rid of the lowball offers. Let's get rid of the ones you don't like their culture or the structure doesn't make sense. Get down to these 3 to 5. Then we're going to bring those people in for a half-day meeting, kind of think of a long first date. They're going to vet us a little bit. We're going to vet them. We're going to show the synergies between our two firms or entities. And then we're going to go out and see the facility if there's anything to see. And then, again, all confidential. And then go out for dinner or lunch and just get to know each other a little bit. And then it's rinse and repeat. You want to do that all within a week's time frame. So that's kind of a heavy load. And then 2 weeks after those meetings that we call management presentations, then we get the LOIs. Now we're getting, so the IOIs, those offers initially would have been maybe just value or even a range of value, structure, closing time frame, keeping out all the legalese or all the other stuff. Well, now we're going from, well, I'm thinking somewhere between 16 to 18 to 17.25, and the structure is this, and it's all exact. And then now it's when the M&A attorneys comes in and the tax folks come in alongside us. And now we're negotiating because at that point in time, the seller has the most leverage because there's multiple buyers. They all know it, and they're competing, to try to win this bid. So we want to get as much into that LOI as possible with the legalese and everything else. And then once that framework's signed, now it's usually you'd like to say 60, 90 days, but it's probably more 90 than it is 60 to close. But now you're going through, financial due diligence. You're going through negotiations. The buyer's getting their financing lined up. It's not a fun time for anybody, but it's just the thing you got to get to the other side. So, so again, about a month to prepare, 2 months in market, a month or two to negotiate get the meetings and have the LOIs, and then 2 to 3 months to close. That's the typical time frame. And what you're going to get from that is when you get those multiple offers, you're going to be able to see, and you have the leverage. You get to kick people out of the process that want to buy your company. You get to figure out who are the best fits. And it's just all that negotiation and that leverage that you have in negotiations. When you get down to, you get to choose who is the best fit for you when you look at the value, the structure of the deal, when you get to leave, the culture, the employee mix, or, taking care of the employees, whatever's important to you. And that's, without that, you get one offer. You're going to accept whatever it is. You're never going to know what the other offers are. You're never going to know how much money left on the table because you did. And you're never going to know what you could have got for your employees or anybody else because they just, again, they're going to pay as little as possible. And then if they don't like it, they'll move on to the next sucker and try to get the next business owner to agree to their lowball offer.
Yeah. So it's basically transferring the whole thing about POMO. My takeaway is you're transferring leverage from the buyer now to you, right? If you work with someone like you guys that has the experience, right, you got the leverage now and you get to choose. It's like making a key hire for your company. Would you rather take the first guy that come in or have the choice of 50 people like that person? And you have the choice except for compared to just taking the first person that comes in.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Because again, if the buyer has all the advantage when it's one-on-one, if you bring an investment banker, and at least it's even, now there's knowledge on knowledge. But when you can get all the offers, when you get multiple offers, now the seller has the advantage. That's the only way the seller gets that advantage.
Yeah, there was a story that hit me as well. I think it was last year. You know Patrick Bet-David, right? Mm-hmm. So he sold his company, I believe, for $300 million to private equity. And I remember there was a video where he talked about just a year before, he was on market to sell it, and the private equity firm looking to buy his company went into his office, and he was asking everyone at his office who works the hardest, right? Who works the hardest at the company? They all said Pat. Like every single person said Pat. And they went for dinner that night, and the private equity was saying like, yeah, well, we talked to everybody on your team, and they all said that like you work the hardest, right? So we cannot buy the company without you. So we're going to give you, again, I'm going to butcher it, but like $20 million, $30 million, right? Yeah. And that's it. And it was like, oh my God, like I cannot do this. So I think he spent like the next year or two went to Harvard and did like all the C-level executive management courses and met with other CEOs and built his entire C-level team. And then the next year or 2 years later, they came into the office, did the same thing, ask everybody around, and they all like, no one said Pat at all, right? I don't know if he trained his team to do that, but and he got that $300 million offer, right? So that was a pretty cool story about, again, that key man risk, and like you got to plan for it and know what's the weakness of your business and plan ahead. That's my biggest takeaway from that and the whole conversation.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And in one story that I heard, now I was not firsthand to this, but I heard it through a financial advisor friend that I know, so I believe it to be 100% true. Is a company similar to yours, and digital marketing and everything else. Got an offer for $10 million from a private equity firm, and went to the financial advisor and said, "Well, do you think this is a good offer?" He goes, "I don't know. I'm not a valuation person. It's $10 million. You want to sell for $10 million?" He's like, "Well, I don't have any assets, and that's that, and everything else." So he sold for $10 million and felt really good about himself until 1 year and 1 day later, when the private equity group flipped it for $150 million. So they just wanted to get capital gains treatment, and they would have sold the next day if they just wanted to wait 1 year and 1 day to get capital gains treatment. Sold for $150 million. Now that's an extreme, but it's real. I mean, again, my example of the other deal was $22 million they would have left on the table. Yeah, and in 45 days, in 10 days, we had a signed LOI at 51.3 when they were going to accept a deal either at 25 or 31 from 2 unsolicited offers. So that's crazy. It's the wild, wild west. It still is. And I always think of that because I started 27 years ago, and there was no websites. When I started in M&A and now AI and everything else, but it was all these mistakes that business owners were making. And they're still making the same mistakes today, even with all the knowledge out there. And again, because you only get to do it once in your life, and you don't want to tell anybody. Like, I think roughly, what was it in the study showed like 50-some% said they're scared to death if their employees find out they're all going to leave the next day. So they don't want to talk to anybody. It's like, you don't want your employees knowing, but you need to talk with someone about this before it's too late. And then the situation takes care of itself because you're no longer around. And then it's piecemealed out or it's shut down and everything else. So that's the goal. That's why I appreciate you, Joey, of putting on a podcast like this and trying to get, really good information of a variety out to business owners, because it's only with that they can make well-informed decisions. Otherwise they don't know what they don't know. And I think that's the interesting part. And I'll wrap up maybe with this, is that one of the other thing in our study that I thought was really eye-opening, why are the numbers so bad, as we both talked about earlier. We asked them how they got into business. And again, these are not, they had to be around, they had to be at least 5 million in revenue and been around for 30, 40, 50 years.
Successful.
All successful, mature companies. And I sell companies and think what percentage of those companies, of the 750 companies, you think that the owners bought the company from a third party, like through someone like us? What percentage would you think that was?
Out of 750?
Yeah.
I would say, is it like 5-10%?
Yeah, it was 3%.
3% less.
So 76% started the company, birthed it from nothing. So they have no idea what to expect when they go to sell their company because they've never gone through it. 16% inherited it from their family. So again, no due diligence there. They just got it turned over to them. 5% bought it from their boss, from their employer. So there was probably not much diligence there at all, other than getting financing and things like that. If it wasn't financed by the owner. 3% had gone through the diligence, have gone through the QEVs, have gone through financial diligence, legal diligence, and all the negotiation, that actually know what to expect. So when you think about, boy, there, 76% or actually 92% have never gone through this process. And if you look out there for private equity firms and other businesses, when they go, what do we want to buy? We want to buy founder-owned companies. They're like, well, that's just interesting. But why do they want to buy founder-owned companies? Because they have no idea what to expect. They have no idea what to expect, and they're going to get beat up because they've never probably sold a company before. And so that's what, that's what we're all trying to protect, is just educate people and help them live, the legacy. We like to say is that we work with world-class, best-in-class companies, giving them best-in-class results, that they can truly live that. Because again, anybody can sell a company. You can sell a company. You can sell your company tomorrow with all the buyers out there. But that's just a transaction. We want to make it a legacy level deal. We like to call it a legacy, where you can live your ideal lifestyle. You know what you're going to do next. Zero regrets. You get to choose who your buyers. You get to finish strong. So that's again why work with an investment bank versus doing it yourself. Transaction of I sold my company myself versus a legacy level deal of all of those things and having that peace of mind and everything else.
That's great. And I think the first step is education, right? So I think first thing I'll do after this, I'll grab a copy of your book and I'll drop the link in the description for those of you that want to get it. What can I expect from reading the book?
It's a lot of what we talked about. It is not a book on how to maximize the absolute most value in your company and work with Cornerstone. It's really a holistic approach of whether you're 10 days or 10 years away from selling your business. It's a lot of stories, some of the ones I told today probably, and some others. Yeah. But it's, when do I want to sell my business? Understanding what's important to me in a sale, understanding all the pros and cons of exiting. You might find out that you don't want to sell it to a third party. You want to sell it to your management team. Great. But at least you know the pros and cons of the 9 or 10 different options. What do you want to do next? What are some of the value drivers? What are the difference between different buyers? And then really at the end of the day is, what do you want to be remembered for? So there's the book, and then if you go on Amazon, it's also the Finish Strong workbook. And really the two together is where the magic happens. The book is good, but you really want to get into the workbook, and there's thought-provoking questions in there that you can reflect on. There's assessments that you can take. And it's, if you're looking to pass it on to a son or daughter, it's a whole chapter, because people think, oh, that's the easiest. I'll just give it to my kid. Yeah. That's probably the toughest, because now you're mixing family and what's fair with multiple kids. And what if they aren't passionate like you, or they don't have the same skill set? So there's a whole chapter on it. And then there's 2 quizzes that everything in the workbook is mine, except for 2 quizzes. A woman let me use her quizzes, and she's brilliant. She's written a book. She's studied the entrepreneur traits all her life, and she's hired by some of the biggest and brightest private equity firms to help really understand, do they have the right CEOs in place and everything else. So it's just a good workbook. Like I said, it's a holistic, it'll give you a good holistic picture of where you're at, where the gaps are, and what you can do to enhance the value.
That's amazing. Looking forward to dig deeper into that. Scott, I want to leave you with this. Your firm's mission, right, is to create a positive, life-changing events and give owners the gift of both time and money, right?
That's absolutely right.
After 25 years, 400 plus transaction. If this episode outlives you, right, outlives us, what's the one lesson about selling your business that you would want every entrepreneur to remember?
Yeah, I think it's plan early, build a team especially around you, and make sure you get multiple offers so you have that peace of mind. At the end of the day, why did you start the company? What do you want to do with life? It's about making memories. It's about making an impact. And by starting to prepare earlier, by building a team of specialists around you, by getting multiple offers, by running a process, that's much more likely to happen. And then you can do so much good with the additional funds that you get in the sale.
That's amazing, Scott. Well, thank you for your time. It was a blast. We'll drop all your links below in the description. If you want to learn more about what Scott do, Cornerstone, his book, everything's going to be below. Again, thank you for your time, Scott. It was a blast. I think we've educated a lot of people here, including me. So I want to thank you for that. That was amazing.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you. And again, the only thing we're asking in return on our end is to subscribe, like it, give some comments, give some questions for Scott that we can help you answer. And yeah, we'll keep bringing on amazing guests like Scott, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good day. Ciao.